Welcome to the Harrison Boone podcast.
And we're live here with Markson, the man that can get anyone famous.
I can make anybody famous. Give me a call. 0412 501 601.
Small plug. You're probably going to get a lot of phone calls now.
I'm sure I do. When I do it on national television, that's when it really goes off. Like all sorts of weird calls and interesting calls.
International podcast, so
yeah, absolutely.
Your phone's going to blow up, no doubt.
Nothing wrong with that.
Maybe...
I put a post up the other day when that fire was on last week.
Yes. Yeah, so, the one in Surrey Hills.
Yeah, so it's over the road from me. So I'm in the office and...
Where were you at the time of the fire, Max?
Well, I'm sitting in the office, right, working, and Marsha in my office went, I'm leaving. So, okay, I kept working. And I thought, I better put video up. So I did a little video there. So I think it's time for me to leave now. And I put it out there. And I've only got a few thousand people on my Instagram. And then the next day I saw, about 1,900 people, which is a lot from, And then my daughter rang me up and said, you've had over 100,000 people. I said, no, it's only about 2,000. I said, look on your video page. And I went, where's that? And click on there. It's had over 140,000 views.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And it was only like 15, 20 seconds because there was a fire there. And I was like, it was like 4:15.
It's amazing how quickly that news spreads now. Like social media. I saw the fire in the apartment complex.
Yeah.
I saw that on social media before the news outlets reported on it. So the speed at which we get information now has changed.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful, but also the speed and the reach of social media also has so many negative drawbacks to it. In the sense that people can reach you now that were never able to before. Like going back, say, to when my parents were my age. The only way someone could contact you is if you gave them your phone number and then they'd have to ring you while you were at home. That world, we don't live in that world anymore.
Different world.
Now we live in a time where I can send you a message straight away via Instagram or Facebook, whether it be positive or negative.
I know, it's so hard. Instagram, Facebook, text messages, something else, WhatsApp. I mean, it's impossible now. I think people are overwhelmed and can't handle it. There's so much information coming at them, and they're reading stuff, they're watching it on TV, they don't watch live on TV anymore. Ticket sales, no more do people buy newspapers the way we do it online. No more do people watch live TV as they should, because now they'll watch it when they want to watch it.
So for people that don't know, you've been in publicity, public relations for, is it 40 years now?
I started my business in 1980. I started working. I failed my exams at school.
More than 40 years.
I started promoting BBC Radio 1 disc jockeys in England, and I was 17. So that's when I started working. I wanted to be a chartered accountant, but I failed my exams. The guy said, "Go and study them again. You can do it." I never did.
You're way too charismatic to be an accountant. The question I've got, it's quite a broad question then, is in that amount of time, in 43 years, from 1980 to 2023, 43 years, in that amount of time, how much has the landscape of public relations media changed? Because people coming into the industry now would have social media and all those things at their fingertips that weren't available to you back then. Like, I would imagine, and I'll let you answer the question, was marketing completely different back then to the way it's done now?
Publicity is much more different, and it's so much easier now. In the past, if you got a story in the Daily Telegraph and they did a horrible story about you, you're stranded. Now, anybody can stick the knife into you, and you can go and, in less than 140 words, if you put it on Twitter or video, and you just put them down and you correct them and say, look, you got this wrong.
You have the right of reply via your own platform now.
Yeah, and the other media get behind you because they've made a mistake. So I remember this with Leighton Hewitt, the tennis player, and somebody had written a story, like in one of the magazines, like might have been New Idea, put a story of his wife with a guy. Leighton Hewitt's wife's out with another guy. in less than 140 letters, says, yeah, it wasn't exactly another guy, it was her brother. Like, you know, and then all the other media just hone in to stick it up, new idea or whatever. Yeah. So the power now is, you know, somebody can write what they want to write about you, but you can correct them and you put them back into place. And the other media supports you. And it's not just the other news media, might be on TV or radio or in newspapers or magazines or online, but it can be as you as a social media person, even if you've only got 0 followers or 1 follower, you can put it out there and correct it and people will pick it up.
I've noticed when online media outlets have come at me for things, I've noticed how quickly you can correct the narrative either by posting on your own social media and saying, no, here's my side of the story, or providing evidence to correct the narrative, or even contacting rival news outlets. Like the media travels so fast now, and I feel like people's attention spans for media is so much smaller. So to going back to your example of Leighton Hewitt, Beck Hewitt with the negative publicity, that might have been in people's minds for a week or 2 weeks back then. Now, when people read something negative, it's in their minds for a day, and the media moves on to the next story and the next big thing. Even like going outside of my own experience in the media, like that fire in Surrey Hills that we're talking about, the media's already onto other things now. If I go on to news.com or whatever, it's all news stories. They're not covering that fire anymore.
You say that, but like, you know, yesterday, it was all over the media again because they were pulling down the building then. And I remember ringing, you know, my daughter's got a TV show, right? And I rang her up and said, oh, did you know this? I said, yeah, it's been all over the media all day.
Yeah,
because all the TV crews are there filing the copy and sending the stories up there. It's been all day because they pulled the whole building down yesterday.
I find, I agree with you. I just find that I think in those circumstances, it's a bit of a slow day for media if they're covering a building being pulled down. I feel like...
oh, no, that's a big story in Sydney.
It is
that's
big, yeah.
Surrey Hills is the heart of Sydney. It's the central railway station. And it's like a serious story. That was a big story. It ran
if I feel like
not just
Taylor
here, everywhere.
Swift's nipple fell out while she was going grocery shopping, that would be all over the media and no one would be covering...
Taylor who?
Taylor Swift.
Okay.
If, just as an example, if something like that happened, that'd be like... all over the news. There'd be no one covering the Surrey Hills fire.
It's not a news story. It's not on Channel 7, 9, 10, ABC. That is not a news story. That's a celebrity story that will not make the lead news story.
So you don't think that celebrities can make the lead news?
If they're a big star, yeah. If they've been on Married at First Sight, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm being honest. Yeah. You know, some stories are big, some aren't. And I remember getting home and I said to my wife, I said, you know, this will be a lead story tomorrow. I said, no, I didn't. What is it? I said, there's a fire going on. I didn't know about it. I don't watch TV. And I said, I'm telling you, it'll be front page of the paper. And it was front page of the Daily Telegraph the next day.
I agree with you.
So if it's news makes things, like I did a thing last Friday, it was a big MMA fight. Nobody gives a damn about MMA. But if you like UFC and you like MMA, you love it.
Yeah.
And these guys wanted me to do publicity. I said, sure. And they had a guy who you never heard of called Sam Miles fighting. It was the first fight. It was his debut fight as a professional fighter. It was enormous. Why? Because his father is the current Deputy Prime Minister of Australia.
Okay, so that's how it makes the news.
That made the news.
The connection.
And even though it was at 7:30 at night, so on a Friday night, they've all closed. They sent a crew down there, which they fed for all the other TV crews. So that was the news. And the Herald Sun came and ran it. They ran it within half an hour of it making online. So it's, news is an interesting app. It's not just about celebrities. And if you're a celebrity, great. Or if you want to be a celebrity, great, because you'll get coverage. You'll get mileage. But you've got to then make it work for you.
Can we go back to very, very junior Max Markson? Because I think there's a story here about you growing up, and I kind of want to...
I used to have hair.
Yeah. We'll get to the hair. So I've read that you started off attending swimming functions with your father as... What's a spot boy?
My dad was a high diver.
A diver, yeah.
And then he opened up an aqua show, which is like an ice show, but in water with synchronized swimmers and divers.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's what he did for a living. Yeah. So when I was, 5, 6, 7 years old, I used to be on the spotlight. And of course, there'd be in the swimming pool. And
so you'd be controlling the light that
I'd be at the spotlight, and I'd be with all the big diving boards at one end, and there's a stage at the far end, and there's 1,000 people in there, and I'm doing the spotlight. Because then I'd fall asleep. My dad would just have to wake way up because it had gone dark there and it was all lighting here, and I'm fast asleep.
You're giving me flashbacks to helping my dad in the garage with a spotlight, bent over a motorbike or a car or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was your job, was to control the lights at 5 or 6 years old, which is essentially what the audience is watching, right?
Yeah.
So you had the main job.
Well, I wouldn't say the main. I was just on the spotlight, but that's what I started doing. And then my dad died when I was 15 years old, and I came home from boarding school to live with my mum in Bournemouth on the south coast of England. And
so the catalyst to leave boarding school was the death of your father.
Yeah, and
was he looking after your mother at the time?
Oh yeah, they were together. My dad I was only 15, right? And he was running the aqua show and living in Bournemouth.
When you say looking after your mother, I get the impression that she wasn't well. Is that
no?
Not
She
the
was
case?
fine.
She was fine.
But I felt I needed to go and.
Oh, you felt like you wanted to be with your mother.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do.
At the time.
And school fees were pretty expensive, so they couldn't afford that. It's a different world.
Yeah.
And so I then
were you supporting the family?
No, I was working. No. She had a home. She was fine.
Okay.
But I got a job as the spotlight operator in the local nightclub.
Okay.
And I'd do that. So I'd cycle on my bicycle when I was 16 years old and go down there each night at 10 o'clock at night. And that's how I started. Then at the end of the first week, the guy who was the stage manager said, "Look, I've got a gig for $3,000 or $3 or whatever it was. You can be the spotlight operator. You can give someone else to the spotlight operator for 50 pence, and you can be the earn £3." So I became the stage manager, and I would operate on stage doing the lights and stuff like that. So, and then sometimes I'd have to MC as well. So I started that sort of game.
And then, what age was this roughly? Because it was 15 until
17.
17, and then 17 you went into the media.
Yeah, at 17 I started promoting BBC radio and disc jockeys. At lunchtime, I'd leave where I was at school, go across and use the post, putting money in the post office, to make somebody call, and I'd ring up to do a deal with an agent to book someone for £200 or whatever, and then I'd do posters, and I started promoting BBC radio and disc jockeys. That's what I did for the first.
And then who were you booking for these fees?
Big stars. That'd be like, if you were here today doing it, you'd book Kyle and Jackie O, or you put the big names. For them, they were national radio stars.
Right. So how were you getting the contacts of these people?
I'd look up the agent, I'd ring them up, and I'd just do it on the phone.
So you were almost doing the agent's job for them in a sense.
Well, I was giving them money.
Yeah.
£200, and so we'd find the money and we'd book it, and we did it every week, all during the summer in Bournemouth. And I'd put posters up, and I'd go into all the restaurants and clubs and shops which were open. I'd put posters up and give them a couple of free tickets, and there was a guy who took my first £1 in business, a £1 ticket. Funny.
It's interesting to hear that you were driven and motivated to book talent and try and look after talent at such a young age, and then getting into the media and in the radio stations. Yeah,
and pop groups as well. I remember hearing this song on radio. This was in 85, the following year. Sorry, 75. God. Right? And I heard this song on radio, which went like this: "I believe in miracles. Where you from, you sexy thing, you sexy." It was Hot Chocolate. And I booked him for £1,000. And
is that big money?
Yeah, and £1,000, I suppose.
Yeah,
not what it's worth today, but it's £1,000 then.
I'll get the inflation calculator.
And sold out, and so I paid them actually another £500 or £600 and made money. So and I started putting bands on as well as BBC radio and disc jockeys, and I did that for 4 years. And I came here for a holiday when I was 21, and that was in 1977, and. I'd only been here, funny how I found these clippings the other day. I'd only been here 5 or 6 weeks, had this idea to do T-shirts for the federal election campaign of 77. And I had a story in the paper in the Australian. Then I did a news conference, and I hired a PR company, and we sold T-shirts to the Liberal and Labour parties, and we sold them into David Jones and Gowings and retailers.
So you've come over to Australia. How old were you when you came over?
21.
You were 21.
I turned 21 in June. I got here on September the 4th, 1977.
Okay, you came over here 21, and then one of your first jobs essentially was doing PR management for the Liberal and Labor parties, selling T-shirts.
No, I was selling them T-shirts. I was making T-shirts. I put an ad in the paper and got somebody to put money up, and I did that. And then I worked for an importer for a year, and then I was told to get out of the country 3 times. Right?
Why?
Well, the first time I went and renewed, I had 3 months, asked for another 6 months, they gave it to me. Then I said, can I stay here? And they said, no, you've got 14 days to get out of the country. So then I went and got engaged to someone, which was illegal. I wouldn't really get engaged, right? And I went, so look, I've got engaged to this one. I bought a ring, and I said, no, you haven't. And I said, oh, okay, I haven't. And then I spoke to this guy who's still alive today. He was a
fake engagement, I love that.
He was a barrister, and he said he tried to help me. And he was opening a place at King's Cross. He had a big hotel there, and he knew that I'd done discos and stuff. And he, why don't you do? And I opened a nightclub called the Zoo, and I was the head zookeeper, and that was at King's Cross.
That's hilarious.
What
sort of clientele was at the Zoo?
I put a different celebrity on every week as guest DJ, so I'd have personalities. I'd just find local personalities, and then there's a girl.
Was celebrity DJs a big thing back then?
No, but celebrities were.
Yeah,
celebrities were. So that and I'll put that in the media.
To do that, yeah, that's pretty outside the box. Was it successful?
Yeah, and after about we started in August '78. In October, we had to move further down into William Street, 150 William Street, because we were doing too much business. And then I'd close the doors at 8 o'clock in the evening, so you had to queue up. So every time, if you came on a Saturday night or whatever, there's a queue. Right? We'd open the doors after half an hour, and they'd come in, it'd be packed.
And then what sort of, can you name names as to who the celebrities were, if you remember back that far, to who you were having on as DJs?
Brooke Shields, Evel Knievel, big movie star, big sports stars, cricketers. All the cricketers used to come down.
What's Brooke Shields like?
Well, she was only about 16 or 17 at the time, and she'd been doing a deal for someone making a movie, and somebody else would bring them in to do a record, and I paid £500 to get her to come be guest DJ, and she was fine. And we got obviously in the paper. Whenever we did anything, the media would pick it up. There's a girl who came back from Australian girl, and she was Miss World all over the world, not just Miss World Australia, Miss World, called Belinda Green. And I finished up managing her. I had her on every time I put her on, place packed out, and then she wanted me to manage her.
I wonder why.
And I started representing her. And then a guy called John Singleton rang up, and he wanted to go on his, he was doing a TV show and wanted to be on there. And I did a deal there. And then he finished up marrying her and had 2 kids.
Nice. So when did you start? Because it sounds like a lot of the stories are getting mixed. So you had the celebrities, and you were DJing and generating business for the nightclub. And then you started managing some of the celebrities as well?
Managed Belinda Green for a while, but then stopped. Gave up the disco stuff. And then I joined 2WS, the radio station out at Seven Hills, and that was in 1980. Okay. And then was there for 2 years, and then I started my business in 1982.
And the business is the business that you're still running today?
Yeah, started it in 82, still do it today, 41 years later. I started just doing publicity, which I still do today. My main business is getting publicity for people and setting interviews up on TV, radio, magazines, online. So I started doing that. And then I got involved with Variety, the children's charity. I was helping them raise money. And then Singo rings me up and wanted me to roast him for his 50th birthday in 1991. I did that. And he rings me a year or so later and says, I've got a guy called Johnny Raper. Johnny Raper was a big rugby league star.
Yes.
He earned money. He didn't earn much money in the 50s and 60s. There wasn't professional sport. And he said, can we do a function for Chuck? I said, no, I was happy to do it for Variety Club. I said, no, we'll pay you to do this function. So I organised this function. And Singo emceed it. Alan Jones did a tribute to Johnny Raper. Ray Hadley did the auction. I had a guy who used to live in Maroubra, funnily enough, Des Renford. He swam the English Channel 19 times before he found out there was a ferry. And so Des used to do the grace before the meal. And we finished up giving Chuck $70,000 at the end of the luncheon. So Singo said, let's do one of these every year for an old footballer. I said, we'll do it for an old sports star, because Dawn Fraser didn't earn much money then. So we did a function for Dawn, and the committee became Singo, Graham Richardson, the politician, Kerry Packer, and a book publisher. And we finished up giving Dawn $240,000 at the function. And after that, the next year we did it for another sports star who's died now, but who had an illness, and she got about $280,000. Following did it for Rainey and Boyle, had breast cancer. She got $400,000 or thereabouts, and did another one for another footballer. And then I started getting inundated with people wanting me to do fundraisers, and so I've now done over 200 charity events, given over $40 million to charity. And as part of that, I brought President Clinton, talked to me 4 times. Nelson Mandela looked after in 2000. President Bush Sr., Rudy Giuliani, Al Gore, Tony Blair, Mike Tyson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so many stars. I've been so lucky, so lucky.
What's Kerry Packer like?
I didn't know him well, so I can't really lay claims to that.
Didn't have much to do with it?
No, I remember being...
I just find the Packers fascinating.
Well, James I know better, but Kerry, when we did I did a private function for Nelson Mandela, and James agreed to host it, and we did 20 people at $25,000 a head. James bought 6 tickets, including one for Kerry, etc. And I worked out some names with him who would invite, and he took some off, and finished up getting 20 people there. And at that function, I remember it was Monday the 4th of September 2000, so the Olympics had just started, and I was on the Australian Olympic team as the assistant media director, my voluntary gig. So I got permission to leave it to go and do my function, and I'm wearing my Olympic jacket and all that. It was a suit, right? And so I was smart, and there's James' father, Kerry Packer's there with Singo, and I'm standing next to him, and they said, "Well, you got this Olympic gear." I said, "Well, I'm in the Olympic team." And all Kerry wanted to know was who's fucking who.
I read a story once about Kerry Packer. He was a big gambler.
He was.
And he went into I think he got banned from this casino in Las Vegas. He went into a casino and it was at a high rollers table. And this Texan oil guy was mouthing off to him. And then I think, I'm probably butchering the story here, but I think Kerry told him to fuck off or something. And then the Texan guy goes, "Oh, do you know who I am? I'm worth $100 million. And Kerry pulls a coin out of his pocket and goes, "I'll flip you for it."
That's Kerry.
That is the most boss move I've ever heard. That he was willing to 50-50, $100 million just to shut a guy up.
Serious money.
Yeah, but the fucking balls on the guy. Like, when I read that, I nearly fell out of my chair.
Yeah.
So in the process of these charity functions and bringing celebrities across to Australia and endorsing them, who's been the most interesting celebrity? Like, I know celebrities' jobs are to make themselves look interesting, right? And then I hear a lot of stories that, sometimes you shouldn't meet your heroes because you meet these people and they're like super boring in real life, or they're just kind of socially awkward, or whatever it happens to be. But I think that there is always some truth to the fact that there are, if a celebrity seems fun, they probably are quite fun.
The bigger names they are, the nicer they are, I think.
Okay.
And I genuinely...
You think the people trying to get to the top are sort of a bit more abrasive?
Yeah, maybe amateurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kerry Packer was a big star, obviously, but I didn't know him.
That's why I'm such an asshole.
But
just trying to get to the top, right?
But there's, President Clinton. I love President Clinton.
Yeah.
I used to have great times with him. And
I did not have sex with that woman.
Well, that doesn't come up. You don't have that conversation. You definitely do that. And
did he tell you how he did it?
You don't have that conversation.
Oh, come on. That's the first thing that I'd be talking to him about.
No, always polite. I'm always polite with people. I'm very much
but I
like
want the
that,
juice.
Yeah. And he was fantastic. But there's, Schwarzenegger's super smart as well.
Oh, you'd have to be. Look at what he's done in his career.
One of the most successful people of all time.
Right.
Across so many different areas.
Correct.
Sport, business, because he made millions on property before he went into the movies. Movie stars, married royalty in terms of, for the US with the his wife. And then getting into politics as well. Becoming the governor of California. I mean, tremendous, great guy. And I was really, brought him here in 2000 13, so it's 10 years ago, actually, this week, or next week. 10 years ago. And I had great times then. And then the Arnold Sports Festival finished up being here, and I looked after the PR for that in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. So that was really special as well.
I've always wanted to meet him. There's very few people that when I hear them talk, they give you goosebumps and send the chills down your spine.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger for me is one of those people. There are so many interviews of his and things that he's promoted for protein companies and things like that are online. And when I hear him talk, there's a video that he's done, or a series of videos that was sort of amalgamated into one long video on YouTube. I think it's called The Blueprint to Success.
Yeah, he's got a book coming out in October, actually. His next book's out.
And he talks about, you can't climb, like he's got 7 rules for success or 6 rules for success.
I can do it in about 5.
Yeah.
1, have a vision. Okay.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's 5 tips for success. Here's anybody listening. Here's your take home for
Here we go.
Okay? 5 tips for success.
It's even been condensed for us.
Yeah, because otherwise it's a 45-minute talk. So 1, have a vision. Okay. 2, don't listen. 1, have a vision. 2, think big. So your vision might be, you want to go into the movies, or you want to do something. So for him, he wanted to become wanted to go into the movies, and he wanted to be a bodybuilder. 2, think big. So not just any movies, wanted to be a leading man in movies. Not just any bodybuilder, wanted to be top bodybuilder which he became in the world. 3, don't listen to the naysayers, because everybody always tells you can't do that, you can't do this, you're not going to work. So don't listen to the naysayers and just believe in yourself. And then 4th, work your ass off. Really work hard. And that's what he always did. And 5th, give back. There's 5 tips for success from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I'm sure he wouldn't be. You can watch it on TV or radio, you'll see a much better speech than that, but there's the 5 tips.
He says something that I've never forgotten, and that is that you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets. And to me, that translated to no one's coming to help you. Like, pull your hands out of your pockets, get them dirty, make money, build your own life. And yeah, it's always stuck with me that if you want to make something happen, you have to do it yourself.
Another tip for those listening or watching. Jack Cowan owns Hungry Jack's, okay? And Jack says, one of his lines is, don't wait for the boat to come in, row out to it.
That's a great line. Yeah. Because if you want to be on the easy street, it's all the hard work to get there, right? Just work. Anything you want to do in life, you just work. Pick the phone up, make the phone call, go and meet someone, work. That's all. Those acts that you booked and those fees that you were collecting, those acts weren't going to book themselves for BBC Radio, were they? No. And they were doing gigs themselves. Yeah, but they weren't. I want them in Bournemouth during that summer to make money. Exactly. And then when you came over here, those celebrities that you obviously would have paid an appearance fee to, they wouldn't have booked themselves for that. Well, a lot of them weren't even working like that. Yeah, and then it built your business. Yeah. Like those things you made happen. No one did that for you, right? You got your hands out of your pockets and you built a business. And now you have a PR agency that you run, and you're still running. Who are you looking after now? I know that you're looking after Jess Power from Married at First Sight, is that right? I was texting with her last night as well. So look after, Alan Jones, who represent him, do speaking engagements for him. Alan, Jana Pittman, who I first represented before she became famous in 1999, 2000. And then again about 2 or 3 years ago, I started representing her again. But my main business isn't really management. It's publicity is my main business, So today, I did this Hex Fight Series 26 in Melbourne. Not that I went down to it, but they normally have like 1,400 people. We had 1,900 people there, and we had a load of publicity. So I filed the report to them today. So they got all the clippings. We're doing a big thing for an ASX-listed company, BCAL, breast cancer, which they're, if you want to buy shares, they're probably a good place to buy now because they're at 9 cents. But in next year, hopefully, they'll be really helping people with breast cancer and solving problems. So they're working for them. I launched Build Your Dreams, BYD, their car company last year,
and did that. Speaking to them at the moment on some of the other stuff. I look after various companies who have all sorts of products. So I'm lucky. I really am lucky.
I wouldn't say lucky. I'd say you've worked hard to get to the position that you're in.
I still think I'm lucky. Nothing's for free. You know?
Yeah,
but I think I've been blessed by this city, this country.
Yes.
The media are really supportive of me. I think I get a good run.
I just think you make your own luck in life.
No, I'm happy to take that as well.
Yeah. I just think like saying someone that's worked hard to get somewhere and then calling them lucky, it devalues all the hard work that it took, right? Like I don't think Arnold Schwarzenegger is lucky. To give an example of someone we've talked about, I think he's a guy that worked his ass off to get everywhere that he's gotten to in life. I think that life hands you a little bit of luck along the way, or you make the most of certain situations.
You've got to think positive. I really believe in that.
Yes.
You have to really, I always try and think positive. You don't want to put people down. You don't want to be horrible. Just be positive. That's a really important thing.
I think my blood type is O positive.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Couldn't tell you.
So I'm always positive. One thing I wanted to ask you is, what advice would you give to someone who is trying to make an impact or build an online brand or become an influencer in today's marketplace that's obviously saturated with people trying to do that, right? What advice would you give to someone that wanted to, like say they've got a product they want to release, or they even want to become an influencer themselves, or they want to build a brand online? What advice would you give to someone like that?
I definitely, for their own social media, be really active in it. Start putting stuff, posting more than you do, right? If you post once a week, then start posting twice a day. If you do one Instagram story a week, start doing 3 or 4 a day. Put content out there. Just put loads of content out there. Talk about your product. Get a hold of all your mates. Give them some samples and say, plug it for me.
Promote it.
Yeah, promote it.
So getting people to promote
of course,
and then content.
Yeah, and give them angles and give them money. If you've got some money there, give them money and bonus them up. And let them, if they sell some copies, give them money. Invest in yourself on it. So you've got to. But social media, it's free, and it's not just, I'm just on Instagram. Great. Now go and be on Twitter. Now go and be on LinkedIn. Go and just put a video up on YouTube. It's all free. It doesn't cost you a penny. It's fantastic. Push stuff out there.
Don't start a podcast though. That shit isn't free.
It is.
Just costs money.
Well, it costs you a bit of money for a few stuff, and then just do your videos and do your stuff and put it out there. So
content creation, bonus structures, or at least some sort of incentives with friends, giving them products as well, I suppose is an incentive, and being across the entire marketplace in terms of social media.
Don't just be on Instagram.
Not isolating yourself to one form of social media.
Be on Facebook, be on everything. And there's so many different places you can go and do it.
Can you saturate the market with content?
Impossible. Impossible. Because nobody's going to listen to you or watch you all the time. They just don't.
But if the content is there, they can, right?
Well, hopefully they will. Hopefully they will. But they're not all going to find you or know who you are.
Right.
Not everybody watches every TV show all the time.
So let's say someone wants to promote a new sunglasses company, right? And they start releasing all this content. They're giving their friends free sunglasses. They've spent thousands of dollars in the startup costs that would be associated with a sunglasses company. And they're doing all of the right things, but they're not gaining traction. How would you advise them to gain traction, start building a following and increasing sales?
It's not so much even building the following. It's try and get some media coverage, come up with an angle, find a celebrity you can give it to who can wear those sunglasses or whatever. Find something that you can do that's going to be newsworthy for other people.
Sorry, man, I'm just going to shut the door.
That's fine.
Fox! Fucking dog. Every time I do a podcast, school kids walk past and make him bark.
Nah.
He's the best guard dog I've ever had. I used to live in no, I wouldn't say a rough suburb, but
Where?
I lived what was the name of the street? I'll think of it in a minute. Out in Marsfield, the back of Ryde there, near Macquarie Shopping Centre.
I know.
And people got broken into me all around my house, never my house.
Because the dog.
They're shit scared of him. Have you seen him?
I haven't seen it.
I'll show you later.
My first time was Wetherall Park.
Oh, yeah,
That's right.
say no more.
That's
just a big industrial area now.
When I was working at 2WS, that was my first house I bought, paid $58,500 for it, and sold it back 2 years later and lost money on it. I could lose money on property.
Yeah. You know, my parents bought their first house in Erskineville for like $140,000.
And that's gone up like crazy
That
now.
house is worth probably about $3 million.
There you go.
I'd be interested to do the current market appraisal for it. But yeah, last time I looked, it was just under $3 million. So probably around that today.
That's the best thing for money. Buy property.
$140,000.
Whatever else you do, buy property. And don't sell it if you can hold on to it.
In the space of 30 years.
It's great.
What other investment is going to 10x itself in 30 years?
Just buy property.
It's great. Those opportunities, though, are just gone.
No, they're not. You can buy property now, they'll go up in value.
Yeah, I can buy a $3 million house in Erskineville now.
Well, if you've got
Where the
money,
hell am I going to get
but otherwise, go and buy it further out in the
deposit?
suburbs. Otherwise, go and buy it somewhere out in the suburbs, further out. Go further out, or go to another place.
See, that it starts an interesting argument because now now I have a lesser quality of life because of that inflation, right? Like my parents didn't have to go and buy further out. Erskineville was still 20 minutes to the city, right? So if I want to have the same quality of life that my parents had, I have to pay millions of dollars to afford it. They didn't have to do that. So it's an interesting conversation
Start somewhere else. And just buy it out. It'll go up in value. Then you'll start earning more money, and then you'll be able to sell it and buy something more, and just buy anywhere. People should buy property.
Or just a crazy thought.
Rob a
get
bank.
The Reserve Bank to stop printing false money and go back onto a gold standard.
Well, that's a whole other issue. Isn't it?
Yeah. Let's get back onto marketing. Something that probably more suitable for the conversation. So back to the conversation about someone launching a brand. So they're not getting traction. They're struggling to make an impact in the marketplace, and they've got all of the right things in place, but they're not converting any momentum that they're making in the social media space. They're not converting that to sales. How do you then go from converting, eyes on your brand to sales, directly to sales?
Come up with a fresh angle on it. Do something different with it. Make it seem that they want it. Send a few samples out to famous people, as in really famous people, right? And you never know what's going to happen. And that's the thing. You've got to get some samples out so that other people can go and post it on the social media. Other people can go and talk about it. And, I used to send stuff to, prime ministers and overseas, international stars. Some would actually use it. And when they did, I'd put it in the paper that so-and-so's, bought my product or has written me a note saying thank you for it. So think of where you want to place it. Push it out. You just have to work on it. Come up with ideas, different ideas, new ideas, novel ideas. Do funny things with it. Have fun with it. It's really important. Right. And the other thing is, everyone says, I've only got, email everybody you know. I only know 100 people. Great, there's 100 people. Now, have you got a computer? Yeah. How many email addresses on there is there? Oh, about 500 or 1,000. Okay, pull all those 1,000 people. There's 1,000 people. Now, you got any family? Yeah, I've got mummies and daddies and brothers and sisters. Okay, go to them. Say you've got to help launch this product. Can I use your database? All of a sudden, your 1,000's gone to 5,000 people because you've got 5 mates who can send it out to their database. So just do that.
It's proactive marketing.
Yeah, and the other thing is, which I learned, 40 years ago, with a guy, I remember watching him speak. He says, who knows in this room who lives next door to them on each house? Oh, everybody knows who's next door to them. Okay. Who knows who lives on the other side of them? Who knows who lives across the road from you? You're in a block of flats. You know who's in the unit next door. Who lives the rest of it? Reach out to all of them. They're all people, and they're all in your marketplace. So you just have to reach out to other people.
Yeah, I learned a lot about that. One of the first jobs I had once I left school was working at a real estate agency, and nothing flash. I was just taking out sales for sales signs and being the doorman at open homes and things like that. Nothing flashy or anything like that. But one of the things I did pick up was that the idea of cold calling or cold approaching potential clients. So door knocking, introducing yourself, giving a business card, all of those things. That's like the bread and butter to a real estate agent. They're aware of all of these things.
And you know what you can do? If you're a real estate agent, write out to everyone in your database to say, hi, I've got a house. And what I always say is, don't just write a boring letter and say, new house for sale. Put someone famous in it to suck them in, right? So, you might...
Such and such has come through and viewed it or whatever it happens to be.
Or even better than that, Prime Minister Donald Trump or President Donald Trump. Put Donald Trump in there, right? Donald Trump is one of the biggest property owners in the world. Unfortunately, he can't buy this $84,000 flat that's available in Sydney, so why don't you buy it now? So you suck them in with something, give them a laugh, and then...
Are you sure you don't work for the Daily Mail?
No, I don't work for the Daily Mail.
I feel like that associative sort of marketing where you're tagging on the end of someone else's, coattails in order to sell a product, it is very effective.
I've been
slightly misleading, but yes, very effective.
Suck them in, I always do.
Suck them in. So the idea then being, and it comes back to the hands in the pockets analogy we were using earlier, is this idea of like proactive marketing to get your brand or what you're trying to push to the market. Be proactive, right? Go out there and actually search for those sales. They're out there waiting. You just got to go find them, yeah?
Yeah, just got to make a noise. Make a noise.
Do you think that getting some sort of, at the risk of asking a super obvious question, media coverage for a brand or a person pushing a product, whatever it happens to be, there is a lot to be said though about the kind of media you get. Now, talking on my own experience, I've had probably the most exposure out of all of my cast members this year on Married at First Sight. I've probably been exposed in the media the most, from interviews also to articles being written about me.
Yeah.
Not a lot of it positive, right? Some of it positive, like, me being a great dad and all those sorts of things, great. My time on the show was largely negative. And so a lot of the news articles that were coming out were largely negative because the media follows the trends, yeah?
Of course.
So let's say I wanted to use that platform in order to push a product. Now, the marketplace or where I'm trying to push my product to, they might already have a negative opinion on me as a person. So any product I push, they're just going to I'm sure there's people out there that will roll their eyes and say, I know. And I know for a fact there's a vast majority of people out there that are willing to, especially the people that follow me, are like willing to back me and, are obviously like supportive. But let's say the marketplace has a negative view of you as a person, but you want to release a product anyway, or you want to push something to market. What advice would you give to someone that has quite a large following or is notorious, but is notorious in a negative way? How do you overcome that in order to sell a product?
Easy. Start doing some nice things. Go and visit the children's hospital. Visit the kids there, right? Take some gifts in there. Start doing some things for charity. Do some things that are nice for the community. They will then write about you in a positive way. That's what you need to do. Do that first, and then you can start plugging your products or whatever you want to flog and promote. And then they'll do that. So you've just got to give back to the community, because what happens, you get pasted dreadfully from a TV show. So then you've got to be good. If you haven't got a boyfriend or girlfriend, find one. Go out with them. Even if you're not going to go out with them really, go and do some photos. So it becomes another story, something fresh. Do something fitness-wise. Go and, swim across the harbour. Do something. Just, take your dog out for a walk. Do stuff which is nice and healthy. That will, you'll soon get positive publicity. And that's what people need to do. And I often say this,
Is it possible to turn negative publicity
around? Of course it is.
And then how long do you think it takes for the public's perception to catch up to the media?
You'll get there. Don't worry about it. Just keep moving forward. Don't look back. Boom, forward. Start moving forward. Do stuff that's positive. You got a new product. We've got a new product coming out, right? I'm proud to be promoting it, and I've got my 4 mates who are going to help me with this as well, because I need all the help I can get, because people don't like me, but my mates love me, right? Yeah. Or I've got my mother. My mother loves me. Everybody loves their mother, and mothers love their sons. So even if you're perceived as being horrible, your mum will stand up for you and talk nicely about you. So you're with your mum.
It's funny you say that. My mum actually has stood up for me. Bless her. It's interesting.
Even if you're horrible, even if you're perceived as horrible, and everybody hates you, you know that even that person, everybody has a family who loves them. They've got mums, dads, kids, brothers, sisters. Even if you hate it, you've done this so badly, but you know full well that person has got a mate at home who cares for him or her. It's serious.
It's interesting that all of your advice seems to be on not letting anything hold you back, moving forward, overcoming. And I think that's the hardest thing for other people that I've talked to that have been in my position on the back of negative media. And I'm not just talking on reality shows or whatever. I'm talking, like, I've met a lot of people on this journey, all through, like, from famous people to not famous people, people that work in the industry, people that are subcontractors to the industry, like from cameramen to soundmen, things like that. You meet all people that come together to form the entertainment industry, the media industry. And yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people that have been on the good and the bad side of that. And it is hard for a lot of people to come back from negative media. One of the people that I see doing that the most, coming back from, I would say, almost basking in negative media attention, would be NASA, who's been on Married at First Sight. I can't remember how many seasons ago. The guy just seems to come back every season. But as a character, as a person, he thrives in negative media attention. I've met him a couple of times. Hilarious guy, very funny, likable, loves the scandal and the negative media. He doesn't care what you write about him as long as he ends up on the front page of the Daily Mail somehow. Almost someone that's mastered the art of attention seeking, I would say. And it's interesting, I don't know what it is about him, whether it's just completely unrestricted narcissism, or if he has just worked out that any attention is good attention, any publicity is good publicity. But there are some people, like I sat down with Olivia from season 9 of Married at First Sight, and she got a very negative rap.
I know. I advised her
Lovely
at the time.
girl.
I was representing her.
Someone who's
advising.
Olivia has really struggled with under the weight of that, and then coming back from that and sort of trying to re-identify herself. And I don't want to speak too much for Olivia on Olivia's experience. Lovely girl. But yeah, like, not someone that bounced back the same way, say, NASA has. What is it, do you think, that differentiates those people that can overcome negative media attention and those that can't?
I really believe that you just have to keep moving forward and thinking positive. Okay? With NASA, who I'm mates with, and my advice to him is always stop embracing all the negative bullshit that's going out and just shut up for a little while and be positive about stuff. But he loves criticizing. That's his call on it all. And I only look at these sort of things from a financial point of view and from a way of moving forward and making money. Because if you've got the profile, you want to generate income from it. And the way you do that is being positive, because people don't want to use negative people in their marketing. So you have to be positive. And even if you've had some negativity, you can get through that to move forward. And that's what it's all about. So
I see the media shifting on me personally now into a more positive space. I think Married at First Sight was so negative. And you spoke earlier about doing things for charity. Well, I've recently aligned myself with a charity. I've
Good.
signed up to do a boxing fight. Well, this was before our conversation, so I'm going to say that I did this before you told me to do it.
That's all right.
A good idea, though. Not the reason I did it. I actually am very passionate about sticking up for children. A lot of the times, children can't speak for themselves. So I've aligned myself with a charity that provides crisis accommodation to children in need. And that's my purpose going into the boxing fight, is to bring attention to this non-for-profit and to make sure that the proceeds of the fight go towards that charity.
Yeah.
Now, and again, I just want to stress, I'm not doing this to try and recoup some image or any bullshit like that. It's actually something that I'm quite passionate about, is, children's rights and men's rights. And so I think moving away from the negative media, and now the media is starting to cover the next stage of things that I'm doing, I do see not only the public, but also the media's perception moving into like a more positive space. I think that when you start off at rock bottom, you can only come up, right? And I find it interesting watching the change in not only the public, the way they approach me.
Yeah.
People come up to me in public and say hello all the time. And at the start, when Maths was on, they were very sheepish. They didn't quite know what they were going to get if they came and said hello. Because I think I came across as quite sort of like masculine, aggressive, angry kind of guy or whatever. And then when people would come and meet me in the street, they'd be like, wow, you're nothing like what you're like on TV. And now that people are starting to see that other side of me in the media and online, people are like, can't wait to come up and say hello.
So you've got two great things about you now, moving forward. One, training for the fight. So you've been doing heaps of training stuff where it gives me to go and train with some famous people so you look like you're training really seriously about this, right? And that gives you a bit of a run-up. And then you've got a great dog. So start doing stuff with the dog. Go take some famous people out with the dog and use that. And do pictures with the
Any
dog.
famous people that want to come for a walk with me and my dog, just hit
Yes,
me up in the DM.
use the dog.
But the reason I'm bringing it up is because
the dog loves you, doesn't the dog love you?
Yeah.
Am I right?
He doesn't
The
have a
dog?
choice.
Exactly.
it's either that or I don't feed him.
So there you go. You're in love with your dog and the dog's in love with you. So that's a positive thing.
Yeah. The reason I bring it up though is because it is interesting watching how quick the perception can change once the media starts writing positive stories.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quick, and I don't want to say that the public's easily influenced, but I feel like people's attitudes can be influenced by what they take in from the media, what they absorb from the media. That affects people's attitudes towards other people, right? And so if it's always negative, they're going to naturally develop an inclination to thinking negatively about you. So yeah, it is interesting. I think if you wanted to overcome, say, negative press, the only way to the antidote to that's really just positive press, right? Yeah,
be positive. Spread the word. Support people. I mean, I'd often, someone, meet with, can you talk about X, Y, and Z person? I said, happy to. And they'd come in and I'd give them a rap. Even though everybody else is negative about them, I'd give them, so look, they've done this, that's might be wrong or might be right or whatever, but they'll be fine. They'll come back from that. They'll do this, and this. They'll be wanted. And I just think you've got to be positive in life.
Do people ever come to you in a crisis situation that need rapid PR reversal, like need narratives flipped? Say someone's in a crisis of an image crisis where the media is constantly being negative about them. Do people ever come to you and say, can you turn this around for me?
Sure, and I try and help them. I think it's, and you just kind of find a fresh angle to it.
Find a fresh angle.
Yeah, find something positive moving forward. Always.
Pivot away from what the media is focusing on and try and get them to focus on something else.
Yeah.
And that would translate as well to someone that's trying to build a brand, right? Like if they're really struggling to crack into the marketplace with whatever it is that they're trying to bring to the market, if it's not working, would you say not to be afraid to pivot to try and divert that attention?
Have fresh ideas, have fresh
Exactly.
Just put fresh angles onto it all. And again, don't forget, even if you've got no money, it's all free on social media now. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, there's so much stuff you can just push out there. You can push your own content out there. That's what I think is wonderful about that. That's so wonderful. You didn't have that 20 years ago. Now you do.
So what are you focusing on now?
Me?
What projects are you working on at the moment?
I can't tell you all that.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can.
I'm trying to do deals with like superstars from overseas to come and do stuff, and I can't talk about that unless I close the contract and do the deal. You know.
Anything that you've closed that you can talk about?
No, but of course I can't.
Come on.
Right? But like I'm enjoying doing publicity. You know, there's a guy called John Jones who you've either never heard of or have heard of, but in UFC he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. He's the world, undefeated, and he's the heavyweight world champion at UFC. And he's coming in August, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Perth. So it'll be enormous. I'm looking forward to that. I'm working on that at the moment.
They're starting to really push the UFC more in Australia.
Well, in the Premier announced that in New South Wales we've got 3 events in the next 4 years. The first one's in September. So this is in August when John Jones comes. He's also known as John Bones Jones, right? But he's got like 10 million followers on his Instagram and his Facebook, and he's a big star.
Huge, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been going 20 years, but I mean, it's now, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
I feel like UFC is almost like when I was growing up, you'd hear about great boxers, Kostas Yu, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Even Australia, Danny Green, like guys like that. Boxers would be the famous sort of combat sports people. And then
mates with
martial artists.
Jeff Fennick I met in 1986, right? And, still fantastic champion boxer.
Martial artists always seem to be famous if they're in movies.
Yeah.
Right? Now, martial artists are going into the octagon, getting paid tens of millions of dollars a year if they're at the top, releasing, like Conor McGregor's releasing whiskey, and it's like this celebrity has really surrounded the UFC, like Khabib and all these huge guys.
Well, I did publicity for Khabib when he came. I did publicity, doing publicity for John Jones. I did publicity for Khabib Gurmad. Anyway, all these UFC fighters I'd never heard of before. GSG, was it GSG? Anyway, there's all these UFC guys who I'd never heard of, but they've got an enormous market.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how much people are just really like going crazy for the UFC now. It's funny, the training for the boxing, it's watching a lot of great fighters and then how they move and then trying to emulate that in the training. And I've got to be honest, the boxing training is probably the hardest training I've ever done in my life physically. And the UFC, I imagine, would be even harder again. Yeah, because that's not just throwing
it's really
punches,
vicious,
right?
that is.
Yeah, it seems way more violent.
Mike Tyson was nice because I brought him into the country in 2012.
I was about to ask you that, yeah.
Tyson was fantastic.
I've seen him interviewed later in life, let's say over the age of 40, and he seems like a much different man than who he was in his early 20s.
It's his wife. His wife's really been fantastic. Kiki. She's been amazing with him. And he's amazing in his own right. I had the best time with him, his wife, and he had 2 children under 4 with him and his mother-in-law. And I got them into the country. And we went on the road. We did Brisbane, over 6 days. Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. And then we'd fly around the country, obviously. And when we were last day, I remember, because I'd been entertaining the kids, and I'm teaching the kids how to be penguins. And they just walk behind me with your feet together and like that. And I turn around to see if they're doing it, and sure, the 2 kids are doing it, and so's Mike Tyson walking like that as well. It's all about having fun, really.
I think that he's let go of a lot of his ego that he had. Like, you'd have to have an ego to become the world heavyweight champion.
He was really strong as well. If you remember his fighting, he was belting them like crazy,
But he seemed like, I've seen his early interviews when he was at the top, right? And he was so aggressive, so much just raw, untapped aggression. You could just see it in his eyes. You could hear it in his voice. He was angry. He just wanted to get in the ring and hurt people. And then later in life, he's just softened right up. He's like a big teddy bear now. a teddy bear that I'm sure still could kill you, like murder you in the ring. But his whole attitude has changed. And I saw it change in his interviews when he was like later in his career and he was simply boxing to keep on top of his money problems and his heart wasn't in it as much anymore. I could see his attitude changing in those interviews where he's like, my heart's not in this, I just don't want to lose to this caliber of fighter anymore. I'm not going to disgrace the sport by staying in it when I'm not, my heart isn't in it. To now, you could see the progression from this angry teenager to the man that he is now. It's almost like he's gone from, like unruly, aggressive, dominating champion to family man over the span of about 20, 25 years. What's he like when you're on the road with him? You would have spent a lot of time, in close proximity to him. Is he very affectionate to his family? Is he loving? Does he...
He'd spend most of his time in his room with his kids and his wife and his mother-in-law. And, when he had to work, he'd come out. I was paying him a chunk of money to come and do the events. In addition, I was paying him a chunk of extra money to sign every day for me. And he'd come and do all that. He'd sit there for an hour, sign. He sits there and we all fucking t-shirts and caps and belts and all that thing. He's signing
merchandise for him to sign.
Yeah. And then he'd do the photo line, which would go on for an hour. Then he'd come on stage. And the first night he came on stage, we didn't know what he was going to do or not. So I went out to sort of introduce him and start talking with him. And he just kept talking. So I just slowly moved away from the stage so he could just keep talking for an hour. They didn't need me there, right? And he just talked. And he was fantastic. And then afterwards we'd do a private dinner for 20 people who'd pay a chunk of money each. So we'd do that for an hour. So he'd work really hard. But when he was on stage, he'd sweat like crazy because he'd be kicking over the places here and this, really bouncing across the stage.
So he's still physical.
Oh, yeah. No, fantastic. And I remember, sorry.
It's okay.
So Tyson was fantastic on the stage, he was bouncing around. And he only really came out of it, he'd worked the 4 or 5 hours, but then we'd move city to city, obviously, but he'd be with his family all day long. Anyway, he came out, we got to Melbourne, and we had a day off there, so we went out on a boat. So he came with his wife and his 2 kids. And then we were in Perth, and he came out of his room again to have lunch. And we had lunch, we were sitting there, and he said, this is the best week I've had. I said, you haven't left your room all week yet. We move on to this. So, no, the best time. And when he just arrived, I just got him, he wanted some machine that they could watch DVDs or something on, and we bought him that for whatever, so he could play games on it and stuff like that. But he was just amazing man. Amazing.
Did he have any interesting stories for you from his time?
Look, he opened...
Anything that he'd open up about?
He opened every day on stage saying, that his mum was a prostitute and his dad was a pimp.
Yeah.
And that's at the age of 12. So that was his life. So he had a shitty life.
He did, yeah.
There. And he managed to become the world's greatest boxer.
Crazy story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to look up to that sort of guy. And then he obviously blew a lot of money and he went up, went down and all that.
He blew a lot of money.
So,
yeah.
But he was, for my time with him, I had great fun. I spoke to his wife, maybe a year or so. I was trying to get him back again. Because he fought again. Remember he fought again, right?
Yeah.
And I reached out and had an offer like $3 million or something and his wife said to me, look, we're doing this now, but if something comes up, we would love to come back and spend time with you again, So I think very fondly of Mike Tyson.
Any other big names that you've
so many. Where do I start? Jean-Claude Van Damme and mates with.
Liz Hurley in there?
No, never Liz Hurley.
No?
But so many people.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Van Damme and mates with, we brought him here in 2016 and I looked after him for about 4 days or 5 days and had a TV commercial for Ultratune I'd organised for him as well. But I remember he got in that morning, I was sitting in his room And I'm saying, will you do a news conference today? Like, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning. He said, yeah. So I make it at 2 o'clock. I said, sure. So I get hair and makeup to come in. Yeah. I said, and you're not going anywhere? I said, no, I'll stay here. So I sat there on the phone ringing around because I'm telling the media, like, this is in 2 hours' time, like, which normally you try and plan it in advance. So I'm ringing around them all and we pick him. Anyway, so then I'm still working. They're organising a bit of lunch for themselves. And he comes over and said, do you want something to eat? I said, no, I'm all right. I said, oh, anything I have. Anyway, he went over and he got me a bowl of soup. He brought me his own soup over for me to have for lunch. It was really nice of him. And we did the media stuff. Then at the end of it all, took him back to his room, so I'm heading home now. And he walked me, not just to his room, but he walked me down the corridor, get me in the lift and said, thank you for, like.
Nice guy.
And he's always been really lovely to me. And I've always got on well with him. And he'd Facebook, come on FaceTime with you, all of a sudden get a call. And he came back in about 3 months later, in December 2016, because he loves Canberra. And he was passionate about
He'd have to be the only one.
No, he loves Canberra.
Yeah, the only one that loves Canberra.
No, I don't think so. Right? And he was passionate about helping animals that were facing the end of their lives and weren't going to extinction.
Sure.
He wanted to bring them into Australia. So we had a meeting with a few of the politicians there, for 3 different meetings. We did all that, and he was great with that. And then next day we went off to Broken Hill for somebody who wanted to donate God knows how many tens of thousands of acres so he could bring rhinoceroses in there to live. And we just always had good fun with him.
Do they survive in Australia, rhinoceros?
I'm sure there'd be somewhere you could put rhino. There's a couple at the zoo in Canberra. They had a couple there at the time. I don't know if they were staying there or not, but we saw the kangaroo. We all went and visited the rhinoceroses there.
I remember reading in the media ages ago, like one of the last certain types of rhinoceros had died in captivity.
It's sad.
Yeah. It's really terrible when you read about a species going, or even a part of a species going extinct. Like, we'll never see it.
See, that's another good idea. If you've got a product you want to promote, go and do a little function with some dogs or some cats or some animals. People love animals. The media will all come and take pictures of that while you're promoting your new pair of orange sunglasses, which are great for dogs to wear and cats to wear. Or have an idea, or feed, or go. You know what I think would be a great place to go and do a news conference? What's that ice cream shop? This is the best in Sydney.
Is it Messina?
Yeah, Messina.
Everyone goes crazy for
Go
Messina.
and have a news conference at Messina, because you can just take 20 people there. It's going to cost you a couple $100 to feed everybody. And the media will come to get a feed of ice cream. Nobody will come and have an ice cream because you're launching this new T-shirt or this new hat or whatever you want to promote. No, but you just pay the money to go in there and have a feed. Just have fun. And I've had a lot of fun in the last year because I've launched
I love how your mind works. You just create these things out of thin air, these opportunities that other people just would not think about, right? Like, that's such a great idea, is host an ice cream party, launch a product. Who wouldn't want to go to that?
Just have fun. I had such fun over the last year working with Sam Mustafa and Mark Wahlberg on Wahlburgers, from when...
they're in Darling Harbour, I think.
They're in Darling Harbour, they're in Manly, they're up at Byron Bay, they're in Surfers Paradise, and now also in Auckland. And I remember just as COVID was starting, I remember having a chat with Sam, because I'm mates with him, and we're doing stuff with his restaurant, with his hotel, and United Cinemas, a hotel chain across the country. And he talked, he was going to do a deal with Wahlburgers. I said, great. Then, of course, COVID hit, and then it was all dead. And then in November that year, the story came out that Wahlberg was coming here. I said, I said, let's do a deal with him. Close the deal. Let's do it when he's here. And we finished up, obviously closed the deal, and we announced it, which we met with him, had a couple of great meetings with him while he was here. And then we announced it in the beginning of 2001, got enormous media coverage because Mark Wahlberg's restaurants coming to Australia.
Yeah.
And
I actually remember that.
And the first restaurant opened a year later, which is 2022. And it's now been going 18 months, and they've opened 5. They've got another one about to open, second one in New Zealand. But just everybody loves going to nice restaurants or loves going to food places. So you've got to have fun with that.
How do these deals occur where you sort of become the middleman between someone launching a product and then going to market? How do you place yourself in the middle of that deal? How do people find you? How do those deals come about?
You know what? I don't chase people, but if people ring me up and say, "Can you come and talk to me about X, Y, and Z?" I say, "Sure." So I just say yes.
So they find you and they ring you up and they basically invite you to come and help them bring something to market.
I really don't make phone calls to people. I get approached by people and I'll say yes, and then go and try and make it happen, make money, make things, or get publicity for them, or do whatever needs to be happening.
Okay.
Not everybody always wants to use celebrities. Some people just want to get publicity for their product and they haven't got a budget to. So it's okay.
Which is why I wanted to talk to you today, because you seem like the best person to ask in terms of how do I bring something to market? How do I get exposure for it? How do I get people's eyeballs on what it is that I'm trying to promote? And I just find it interesting that you seem to be the guy that's always in the background sort of making these things happen for whether it be celebrity or, you know, someone launching a product or like you've done a lot of work for charity. You were telling me you've done, was it 200 functions and $40 million has been donated as a result of that to charity?
Yeah, correct.
Incredible. What a positive impact that you've had.
I'm lucky. I'm really lucky, you know. I find myself in great situations and I'm blessed. Yeah. And I'm thankful for it.
So I don't really have anything else that I think you've given me all of I've picked your brain for over an hour now and you've given me just nothing but gold.
Well, then you can cut this up nicely so it looks good. Take all the rubbish out of that and go and chasing dogs.
No, it was not rubbish. I liked it.
And have fun.
I guess the last thing is just that, you know, people, when they are freshly starting out, not everyone has a Max Markson that they can call and say, hey, look, I've got this, or I want to do this, or I want to turn this around for myself, or whatever it happens to be. So it's interesting getting your point of view on all of these different takes on things. And I think that when we see like a lot of things in the media where, say, a celebrity's been caught up in some sort of a scandal, it's really hard for them to come back from.
I disagree. Doesn't matter how bad it is, unless you murdered someone or something. Just move forward. Come up with some freshness.
That's the biggest thing I've gotten from you today, is just redirecting the attention onto something positive.
Absolutely.
On the back of any negative media. If you are already in a positive standing in the media and you've launched something, or let's just say you are how do you stay there? How do you stay in the positive frame?
Work hard. Keep doing what you do.
Because it seems like when you're at the top, all you can do is fall down.
No, you can keep climbing higher. Keep going higher. Keep doing it. Do stuff. Give back. Like Arnold says, what's Arnold's fifth thing?
Give back.
First thing, have a vision, think big, don't listen to the naysayers, work your ass off, give back. Help the community. Simple. If Arnold can do it, anyone can.
Lastly, if you could give anyone advice now on, like any
you want my tips for success?
Give us your tips for success, yeah.
Have a vision.
Not the Arnold again.
Don't listen to that. But I think positive. Be positive. That to me.
See, that doesn't come naturally to everyone though.
Well, then just add it. Put it into your life. Start doing it. Think positive.
Are you a big... Do you subscribe to the notion that there is a law of attraction in the universe, that you can think about, you can bring about?
I don't understand that, but if there is, great. But just think positive. There's tips for success, and one of them is think positive. And persistence. If there's only one word you remember from all this session today, persistence. Put persistence into your life. Anything you want to do, persist. Persist, persist, persist. You'll win every time.
Max Markson, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Oh.